Awesome. So yeah, I just did one of your retreats a few weeks ago. It was awesome. It opened up a lot of things. Actually, we were talking about earlier, relevant to my family. But I actually don't know much of your background. I know you do Iboga Quest. I know we have some similar interests. We might even talk about like Tumo and stuff. I don't know. I'm reading that book that I'm almost done with it actually. I could probably give it 6 more. Yeah, it's I'm forgetting what's it called again? The practice. Karma Mudra. Yeah. Okay. So
yoga, please.
Yeah. So it's a Tibetan sexual
practice.
Tibetan tantra, is that? Okay.
Well, not the tantra within the Tibetan. So tantra is not just about sex practices. It's way more. It's a tantrism. It's a whole school in Vajrayana Buddhism.
Right.
But one of the practices is they call it the concert practice or union practice, which is with a partner and doing sexual practices.
Yeah. So it's like Tibetan red tantra.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So actually, first, how did your path get to Iboga Quest?
Yeah, so my path started.
Also, just to say, you're a psychotherapist by trade. So that's where you went to school in Mexico for that, or?
I went to university for psychology and a bachelor's, and then a master's in clinical psychology.
Okay.
And then I have another master's in gestalt therapy.
Gestalt? Okay, Gestalt.
Gestalt.
Okay.
Gestalt psychotherapy, which is a pretty experiential type of psychotherapy and based on the present moment or taking responsibility and to cultivate awareness mostly. And so that's my academic background. But I started with a lot of curiosity since I was a teenager, especially with meditation first. That's my main interest. But I grew up in a city, pretty conservative and with not so much openness back then.
You grew up in Puebla?
In Puebla, yeah. And just, yoga. That was the only thing. And for a lot of people, it was considered almost like a devil thing. Yeah. Like a demonic thing. But anyway, and through a friend, actually, when I was 17, I was in biking a lot, and I hang out with guys older than me. They were 40 or stuff. And he told me about psychedelic mushrooms that he once in a while goes to Huautla de Jimenez, the Maria Sabina town here. And I got super curious, it's like, what? Like, sounds, so like make a lot of sense to me. Like, you take a plant, you open your consciousness, and that's therapeutic. So I was super into it, but without any resources around me. So, and I first wanted to study economics, actually. But then after some experiences, I decided to go to psychology. And immediately when I start to open up more into psychology, I start to research more in psychedelics. And aside from that, I start to meditate by myself, actually, without any teacher.
So how old were you when you tried psilocybin the first time?
No, 23 was my first psychedelic with ayahuasca.
Okay. Oh, so you were researching psilocybin, but you hadn't tried it yet, or you were looking.
Yeah, exactly. I researched a lot of years before I tried it.
Why is that?
I don't know. I didn't have a people with experience that can tell me. Like, I was kind of a weird guy in my community. The only guy that was interested in that.
Except for this friend who told you about it.
Yeah, but he was gone by then. When I was in college, he moved to Spain, and he was like 40 something, and he was more in the recreational aspect also. And I moved to Spain for a year, and there I met with a couple of friends that told me that they were opening a school here in Mexico called the Escuela Claudio Naranjo. And Claudio Naranjo was a pioneer in the psychedelic therapy, and also in bringing the wisdom of the West of the East to the West. So
he's Spanish or Mexican?
He's Chilean.
Okay. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Right.
From Chile, but he also was an American resident and lived in Berkeley, in California. And so he started to. He's a huge. He got super big and super famous, wrote a lot of books. So I started studying with him and became close to him, and that opened me so much doors, because he his main approach was to build a school for seekers. You know, like people will have this, curiosities or want to learn more about themselves, and he kind of brought a lot of different tools to help people transform and open their path in a way. You know? So, and then I met people there that were into the medicines and stuff. I went to a ceremony, ayahuasca ceremony here in Tepos.
Great.
15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, a little less, but yeah. And one thing started to unfold, and
when did you try psilocybin for the first time? And when was that like? After researching for so long.
Psilocybin was in San Jose del Pacifico in Oaxaca. I was with a friend and with a cousin, and we took it in the mountain, and it was one of my most profound experiences because it was during the last pandemic happening here in Mexico, so there was no one there. And I was more deep into meditation. That was my main practice, and is my main practice. Psychedelics for me is just a tool, but it's not the path. And so we took it in the forest, and it was like a mind-blowing experience, And we didn't even know the dosage. It was like just grab, like, someone gave us to us and ate all.
Yeah, I was curious because I didn't knew nothing about mushrooms. I think I was also 23 or maybe 21 or something, and my friend just came home. It was my college roommate. It's like, here, I got mushrooms. I thought it was going to be like smoking weed or eating an edible. I had no idea, and it changed my whole life.
Yeah.
Like I was going to go into the Marines, and then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was already an officer candidate. I just had to graduate from school in 2 months, and then I would be deployed, or I would be sworn in. And then the mushrooms, it just changed I changed many things. I decided to change a lot of my thoughts.
Wow. Yeah, for me, after like in the meditation, in the Buddhist tradition that I follow, there is different practices and there are no levels, but different jhanas, they call it, different vehicles. And actually that experience kind of brought me to the path I am right now, And so it was like a initiation, so to speak, of the nature of mind. And I was like, wow, what is this? So it's also represented a huge shift for me, and actually it was the biggest one, the first one for me.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So psychedelics or mushrooms, I guess. Well, psychedelics kind of fit into your Buddhist practice already.
Well, it's not in the traditional Buddhism doesn't contemplate psychedelics as much or nothing. There is some stories and some like anthropological studies about that the roots of Buddhism might be, close to different medicines as they were the Vedas were with the Soma and stuff like that. But not. It's just speculation.
But I meant basically when you're hallucinating, you saw imagery that fit with what you had been learning already.
Yeah. Yeah. And I first started my meditation path in the Theravada tradition or Hinayana, which is the tradition more life in.
That's what I was raised in. Yeah. Not that I know much about it. My father's from Sri Lanka, so
it's been in Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, India, some parts. And after this experience, I had more like a suction experience.
Suction?
Suction is like the.
Suction.
Suction, yeah. Like the highest tantra in Vajrayana Buddhism or in the Enigma school. And that was like a whoa, like this is not just like follow your breath meditation. No, there is more. And after that, I didn't know anything about Vajrayana Buddhism. And after that,
what do you mean? Like, what's beyond? What do you mean by there's more than following your breath?
I mean, like the first stage of meditation are kind of you're training your mind to remain in the present. You're trained to follow your breath, and if a thought comes, you just let it go and come back to your breath. So you're working with concentration. But I mean, I'm not a scholar in Buddhism to teach the whole details about it. But as I understand it, it's like this more you're kind of when you are able to remain in the present moment or to abide in stillness, then that's the first stage. But then you start to open more your awareness, open more your field of awareness. And you start to work more with emptiness and with non-duality as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, not so much about, oh, my thought is bad or this emotion is bad, so I have to use an antidote to not be angry. And the suction pad is more like you just open and welcome everything because everything is the same nature.
Mm-hmm. And is the practice that now you're just observing your thoughts?
No,
or
it's
is it
like
something more.
There is nothing to do. It's weird because the practice is like there is nowhere to go, nothing to do, and everything is perfect as it is. But the thing is that you have to recognize that perfection and that kind of a diverse equality or unifying diversity of all phenomena. So you are seated or not seated, because that's also a thing that suction confronts a lot. Like there is the non-meditation is the meditation. And when you are just in that cultivating that view, and the view of non-duality, to make it short, and so it's more like it's similar to, for example, instead of looking at your thoughts, or instead of looking, because you meditate with your eyes open, instead of looking into the phenomena, you look into space. It's similar. It's not like that, but it's similar to that, Or instead of looking at the sounds, you look into the silence behind it. And instead of looking into your sensations, you look in the stillness of it behind that, So you are kind of shifting your way of being or your way of abiding from your attentional system, focusing on your breath, for example, into the whole field of awareness. And so all the phenomena that arises from that field of awareness are the same nature, and you don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah, so I've never really gone deep into meditation, and I've never had anything close to mystical experience. But every time I've gotten into meditation a little bit, and I'm like, oh, well, this is just a state of being to have in everyday life, I start to lose interest in sitting on a meditation cushion, and I try to be present. But of course, I don't remember to do that. Like, now we're talking about it, I'm like, let me be as present as possible, listening to every word you say, and like feel the silence around us. But I don't normally think that way, right? It's easy for me to lose that awareness.
But that's exactly the meditation. Sometimes it's explained as not a cultivation, but as a remembering. This is like the non-meditation, or they call it the formal meditation, but you see it and do a practice. And the post-meditation state is try to remember that state of openness. I like the word openness because it's when you are lost in thought or lost in phenomena, your attention narrows. You have a struggle inside of you. Everything turns into that struggle, and you might also lose touch of the surroundings. And openness is like, while you allow that struggle to be, you are also kind of with like the lens of the camera open and aware of everything around it. So there is nothing to fix. It's just kind of stepping back. And at the same time, for example, in suction meditation, there is nothing to do about thoughts. They're okay. They're just expression of the nature of mind. But the thing is that you are recognizing that purity in all the phenomena, and you are not lost in the content of the phenomena, or in the opinions or judgments about it. It's like, I like this or I don't like this. You are just kind of watching the show of the, the emanations of, this weird life.
So what do you think about, most of personal development and most of self-help psychology, and maybe a lot of people that come to your retreats and stuff, they want something specific. They want to heal a problem. They want to be a different kind of personality. They want better things in their life. They want to be more attractive. Everything, right? This is what everybody's selling.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that compared to what you just described, where you're kind of not wanting anything, right? Like you're whatever is.
Yeah, more than not wanting, because that's kind of the Hinayana path of renunciation. It's like, I am just in my robes and begging for food, and that's it. It's like completely engagement with everything. It's like you can be eating a burger, and that's a suction experience. You can be in the mountains, doing an offering, and there is no difference. Like the view is the same that you're cultivating. But the thing is, for me, there is like there's no levels, but like layers. of our human experience. No? And the first layer, it's our confused mind, which is traumatized. You know? And for that trauma, when you have a struggle, you have a problem, you have a indecision to make about if you want to be with someone or someone, whatever you have, or you have a childhood experience that is haunting you, etc. For me, the most powerful path is the union of meditation, psychotherapy, and a amplified state of consciousness through psychedelics or through breath or through whatever you want to do. But those three, I found it is a very powerful combination, because whenever you want, you try to be still in this state of openness. Everything that is inconclusive in you, all the open gestalts, as they call it, gestalt, all the trauma, all the repressed feelings, all the core beliefs, everything starts to come to the surface. If you're a strong meditator, as a yogi in Tibet or whatever, or in Bhutan, they just get through it. That's what you can learn about the Tibetans being in jail. They were super strong practitioners, and they go through extreme torture and stuff like that without losing compassion and wisdom or openness. They go through that. But us as Westerns, also with different cultures and different challenges, it is important to have the space to process everything that arises in your meditation. Because as I understand it, is like our natural state of being is completely present and spontaneously present. We don't have to do anything about it to be present. But the fact that we are not is because there is trauma that fragments us inside. And it's hard to abide in the present because, stuff starts to come up. And we learn how to protect ourselves, dissociating from the present, going to our mind or doing different blockages, etc. So that combination is awesome, because everything that comes up or takes you out of the present is telling you a lot about where is your mind and where your healing needs to happen. Just by sitting, I always put to my clients this experiment. It's like, just sit in your room and 5 minutes and do nothing. You don't have to follow your breath. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to write. You don't have to just do anything. And by just that experiment, they realize a lot about, I'm constantly thinking about the other's needs, for example. I'm constantly judging myself about that. Everything that is not resolved starts to come. When we just stop shaking the bucket. So psychotherapy gives you, like people coming into the retreats with different problems. I share a little bit of meditation, but not my whole path, because I don't know. It's like meditation for me is like a lover. It's like you have to build up a relationship. For me, meditation is like making love with life, because you are like fully engaged and fully touched by life. So that's some people are attracted to that, some are not, and that's okay. But through therapy, what we do is like kind of give space, bring awareness to whatever is not resolved or whatever is there, and create a space so people can express it, process it, understand it, and gain more awareness of that. Gain more awareness about your triggers, gain more awareness about your repressed emotions, etc. So, and when you do that, also kind of meditation that state of openness starts to come naturally. And a lot of people after the therapeutic process, they start to get naturally more involved or interested in meditation. And as a power tool, there is the amplified state of consciousness, or non-ordinary state of consciousness, when you can also gain some perspective about yourself in the therapeutic dose or therapeutic process, but also having these experiences that they are not the goal, but they're like a beacon that you can follow. If you have like an open experience, that is kind of a good thing to then start to recollect or remind to be like that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I just had a guest on, my friend Brian Bichon. He's speaking different subject. He was speaking about like attracting what you want, and how what stops it is these traumas or blocks or defense mechanisms that kind of, I forget exactly what language he used, but it's like, as these things come up, if you learn to release them and let go, and you speak more about the Sedona method, then you're just clear, and then there's no friction. I actually remember what you just said with the psychedelics. One of my first podcast guests, Neil Goldsmith, he's a psychedelic guy. He was saying that, a lot of therapy is like your consciousness is a well, and there's a lot of leaves that fell in the well, so you can't see through. I don't know if he invented this. Maybe you've heard this. I don't know.
I heard it.
And then psychedelics, it makes and therapy, you're trying to get the leaves out so you can see. The psychedelics makes the leaves translucent, so you can like immediately see a little bit through.
Exactly.
For a while.
Yeah, and for example, with people, also like the more traumatized you are, or the more, that means like you have a deep addiction or depression or mood disorder or whatever. Like the more traumatized you are, the more narrow and rigid your attention is. Because that's a defense mechanism. It's like I can't be open to all this pain, so I have to close down to narrow my view and focus on something. So, for example, people with depression, sometimes it's like having a cloud in front of their heads without the possibility to see anything. Even psychotherapy or meditation, they are in those cases sometimes very limited because the rigidity of their attentional system is too tight and too defended that it's super hard to get out of it. So suddenly a psychedelic experience can bring a space to that, and they see other things other than the depression. For example, the causes of the depression. Or for example, with psilocybin, there is a common experience of having a mystical experience, which also like take you out of the mud. It's like having a breath, and then the work is not over yet. It's starting there. It's like you are finally eased your symptoms, so you have room to explore yourself, to heal deeply, and to find a path.
The second biggest, or maybe it's equal with my first mushroom experience, also really big. I fell out of time. Like all of my life was happening at once, so I didn't know there's no time, right? Everything was happening at the same time. And then all of everyone's life was happening at once. So like I didn't have an identity. I had just enough of my remembrance of an identity to be scared. Like, everything is happening everywhere. Like, am I ever going to live a life again? That's just like, oh shit. Like all of, you don't exist. I don't know if I can explain it better than that, but it's like all of time and all of space is all happening at once. So I'm like nothing. And then slowly, the medicine wear down, and I came back to 2012 in New York. And I'm like, of all of the things, why did I come back to this random moment? Right? Because at that point it had been an eternity. And I felt like I was experiencing every single person's consciousness. Like, why this random person named Ruwan? And then I was like, I kind of felt like, my life is kind of meaningless, not in a bad way. It's just like, who cares what happens? All of these other lives are happening at the same time,
I think in Buddhism, they call that the fourth time. It's like, I don't know if you've seen some wrathful deities in Vajrayana Buddhism, like the ones that appear like demons sometimes. And they have 3 eyes. And it's because they have our highest self, or enlightenment self, will live in the fourth time when past, present, and future happens at the same time. And as you say, there is no individuality.
Yeah.
There is collective. Also, all beings are the same, so to speak. So your life is others' life. Your other sufferings is your suffering.
Yeah.
And but I like what you say about the insignificance of life, because recently I've been going through that. For example, since I was 20, I focus a lot in my work, a lot, too much maybe, because I confuse it as my path sometimes. It's like, no, my curiosity and my path it's the same as my work. And now I've been confronting that idea, and it's like, no, it's an expression of my path, but it's not my path, And if I confuse them, I might be compromising my path because I go into work. But the thing that what I was thinking that I resonate what you say is that sometimes in this society we give so much importance to the me, to the what I want and what I need, my career, my projects, and that for me lately it's been more like a trap. It's like trying to make life significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it's not. But it's okay that it's not. It's freedom. It is not. It's just a mystery, and you just have to be involved with it.
Totally.
no matter how big you get, if you put that in timeline, it's a grain of salt. It's it's insignificant.
Yeah, like no one remembers even their own ancestors after 3 generations.
Exactly.
Like Nalaya had some pictures in her that her grandmother gave her of nobody knows their names already,
And it's great grandfather of my dad, for example, or something like that. It's relatively close.
Yeah.
And nobody remember about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I do kind of feel like this pressure sometimes because I chose a career where my face and the number of likes matters.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it is almost directly, it affects everything, right? And then I don't want to be online and I don't even want to care about that. But then so many things, even people not in this kind of career that's the currency of our day, and just caring about what you look like. But then when you zoom out, there's always someone, I'm making this video on what happens when a man learns martial arts. Mm-hmm. It's like when you train a lot, you've gotten your butt kicked a lot, and that there's no way you think that you're the best.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible. There's even if you're the best in your gym, that there's someone who's like actually an ADCC champ, or you wouldn't even come close, even if you're a black belt kind of thing. It's just like, it's like so insignificant that you're, number 4 billion out of 8 billion. Like, who cares,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, but it's how, like, and I mean, this might be wrong, but I feel it more a pressure as men about the career and stuff. Like this society reinforces so much. Like, you have to be like, your project is the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
And as Gabor Mate, do you know him? Gabor Mate mentioned, like, I like what he comments about, that in this society we admire extremely traumatized people, people that they destroy their relationships, or they go against themselves, even getting sick, but they're super successful in their career. So they are praised and admired.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of, and this is all self-exploration, but a lot of the motivation to pursue a career that far is based on trauma. Is wanting to be validated, wanting to feel that you have value, that you are worth it, that you're accepted, you are recognized, you are loved, etc., etc., etc. And the career aspect it's a great way to put that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like with any substance addiction. I'm sure about this more than me, but like with any substance, whether it's illicit drugs or whatever, a non-traumatized person would get full before it's damaging, even if it's cake.
Absolutely.
Right? Whereas a super obese person, they're missing that signal that they're full because of something else.
Yeah, actually, I think it was the last Gabor's book, The Myth of Normal, he mentioned something about a conversation with someone that was in an obesity clinic, and people, relapsing as addicts do. And some guy told him, like, you don't understand that we don't eat because we are hungry. We eat because we don't feel the pain. And that's the root of all addictions, And the more pain you have, the more attractive will be any substance or behavior to continue trying to heal it in a way.
Yeah, or even for fame. That's like one of the big analyses, I guess, of all cult leaders, but the leader of the cult I was in, like, she was really traumatized as a child. And actually, I know someone who dated her like 20 years ago, where she said on the date, I mean, I'm getting this third-hand information, but she said something, this is before she had a cult. She said she is so in need of love that she has to form a cult to feel complete. Yeah. And then, 20 years later, she had some cult that, all this other stuff. It's like, it's interesting because all of these needs, let's just say with fame and career and success, we all want more of it. But to abandon certain things or to want so far beyond your appetite,
Yeah, I think one of the biggest skills for me or signs of maturity is the ability the contentment. To know really what you need, not what you want, but really what you need, and to be able to recognize when you are there. When your needs are met and you have you feel that you have a development and stuff like that, but I grew up with a lot of male figures that were devoted to business specifically. That was the male figure in my childhood. No? It's like the man is a provider and that's it. And I have my different examples of that greed also and that ambition to get more and more and more. And people that, or these guys that they didn't know how to stop. Mm-hmm. They're now either they're like 60,
you're talking about your relatives?
Yeah, my relatives or my dad's friends and stuff like that. But the ones that were like pursuing more like this, gaining more money, more recognition, more power, whatever, they're all super fucked up right now. Mm-hmm. You know, like at 60, they're super consumed. Mm-hmm. And the other guys that were more content and they also develop other things other than work or the career, they have more healthy relationships, for example, less anxiety, because they all, it's weird because all my dad's friends start to reach out to me. It's like, you know, what am I doing with my anxiety? And I have like, they have deep problems with anxiety, depression, insomnia, etc. So that opened my eyes a lot. And lately I've been kind of embodied more into my life to see where is enough and also what other aspects of my life I want to develop that they have nothing to do with a career.
Yeah, you know, after that men's group we had a couple of weeks ago, or the drunk chess playing men's group, you know, we were talking about other things, and it really dawned on me that the lifestyle I want to have, which I do have the freedom for, but I feel guilty about, is just to do one work task a day.
Yeah.
You know, 2 to 4 hours, maybe 5 hours sometimes, and then have family time. That's like what I've always wanted. And like to think that I need to work an extra 3 hours, 4 hours comes from this feeling of scarcity that, you know, but actually I don't even think that it would affect my income. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to just polish your method, you know, to work less and have good income, but not get lost in that. But that the guilt is an important thing.
Yeah.
I always, when there is a Monday and I have like a free day or just one session a day, there is some, you know, restlessness in like I should be doing something.
Yeah, this idea that it's okay. I mean, yeah, because like my income dropped right around when my baby was born. So I was like, shit, like I really need to work extra. But now that we're working less, like I don't think me working twice as much even affected my income. Yeah. It might have made it worse actually because I was tired and stressed and, you know, missing certain family moments.
That was my big insight after I had a baby also. It's like I start to feel not as sharp or present during holding space for others in individual sessions or groups and stuff like that. And I start to get super curious about like what's going on. I lost my game, you know, everything is going to shit. But then it's like, no, there was this pressure of, no, you have to say yes to all the opportunities because you have to provide more and you have to get the opportunity to grow. And I was compromising my quality for my quantity. And so after a lot of processing internally, I just cut off a lot of stuff and really do what I'm doing.
What do you spend your time on more now? Or what maybe things are you wanting to do more of?
I always have, for example, right now, I always feel, I always had this crazy idea that after 20s or something, I can't learn anything else. It's like, you know, if I didn't learn it as a child, I can't.
Yeah.
You know? And so right now I'm feeling like the need to do something like that. You know, I'm willing to. I'm always very inclined to music, but I never learned to play anything. So I want to play something. And also actually following in my kid path to learning and to exploring. That this been helping me a lot to you know awaken the wonder again. You know.
Yeah, actually, I just thought of it like learning certain skills. Like you know, I guess he's a few years away, but if he wants to learn guitar when he's 5, you could learn together.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. That's the thing. And also the other day that you mentioned that you're riding horses or you learn how to grow chickens or to raise chickens. That was like, of course. You know, I've always have a lot of curiosity in life, but I was narrowing myself to just work. And right now I'm trying to expand to other things. You know?
I actually felt like I have to learn how to ride horses now because I feel like maybe it's a little the opposite. I feel like I can't learn when I'm 50. It's too late. Like I actually only have a few, maybe 10 more years where I can really learn a new skill and then use it. So I'm like, I have to ride horses now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's and has to do. I've been doing a lot of practices too, and ibogaine helps a lot into that, into have healthy dopamine levels, because learning has to do a lot with dopamine.
Yeah.
And when you're ups and downs in dopamine, there is no that energy, and I lived like that a lot. Like stressed and then coping with easy dopamine, and right now, since I took ibogaine 2 years ago the first time, I felt how does it feel to have healthy dopamine levels, and it was amazing. It was like, wow, and like it's like having your your, how do you say, like your gas tank full, like that feeling of I can go anywhere, I can do anything, I can learn stuff, I can engage with people without anxiety. So like it was a mind-blowing thing. I didn't know I left with so shitty dopamine levels before.
Can you speak more about, because Iboga is something I've never tried. I'm curious about. All I know about is that addicts take Iboga and then they never go back.
Yeah,
I guess usually, I don't know.
Actually, that's a little side of ibogaine, that in the West is only famous because of the addiction interruption, which is an amazing quality of the ibogaine and a miracle for so many people, and especially with opiate addicts. But ibogaine Iboga is way more, is bigger than that. No? So Iboga, like a background, it's a root, or it's a plant. Iboga is a plant from Africa, mainly in Cameroon, in Gabon, mainly. And there is a cult there called Biwiti, which are the guys that traditionally use Iboga in a shamanic context. And they do.
That's where they believe in like the orishas and stuff like that. Yeah. Orishas? Isn't that what they call their spirits? I might be mixing up African religions.
I'm not an expert in Biwiti, but probably, yeah, they work a lot with dancers there, with spirits, and it's and there is different branches of Biwiti also.
Okay.
I know a little bit just, but the thing is that different people, among them Claudio Naranjo, start to explore with ibogaine here in the West in the 60s. And Claudio started to do some experiments and find out they have some interesting therapeutic abilities, but he wasn't very impressed by his own experience, so he kind of
with Iboga.
The first time he took it alone, like ibogaine, which is the alkaloid of Iboga, one of the most psychoactive ones. But ibogaine started to be very popular because a guy named Howard Lotsoff, he was a heroin addict, and he was talking to a chemist friend, kind of like, what else do you have? What other drugs can I try? And this chemist said, here I have ibogaine. I don't know what it is. They say it's psychoactive. And he took it, 500 milligrams, which is a good dose, but not very high. And he realizes after the experience that he didn't have any cravings or withdrawals. So he was like, wait a second, what is this? So among his junkie friends start to share the ibogaine, and by by trials, they start to develop protocols to help addiction interruption. So it was like a kind of parallel movements, people working within the psychotherapy aspect, but this addiction interruption qualities start to get super popular.
And that was done underground. It wasn't like therapists doing it. It was junkies helping junkies.
Exactly. Junkies helping junkies and kind of doing trial and error, how do you say? Right? And with some casualties in the path, because there is some things about ibogaine, for example, mixing it with opiates is super dangerous. And they start to develop protocols, to what works, what is dangerous, stuff like that. So ibogaine has this fame of being just for addiction, because a lot of people is like, ibogaine, no, I'm not an addict. It's like, no, it's way more than that. That's one of the aspects, but it's like the most profound psychedelic in my point of view. And the other is that it's dangerous. That's another misconception. And of course, you have to, the providers has to really be qualified and really know what they're doing. There's a lot of bad ones. But if you take care of a couple of things, ibogaine is super safe, and to take larger doses.
Yeah. How would you compare it to psilocybin or ayahuasca?
You can compare psilocybin and ayahuasca, no?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're kind of, there is some similarities with different language, but this kind of you know, Spanish and Portuguese in a way, no?
Yeah.
But ibogaine is like another level.
So I just have to try it, basically.
Yeah.
I guess it's always hard to describe psychedelic experiences.
Yeah, but I mean, for example, it's not psychedelic in the sense that there is no so much these color visions or these kind of psychedelic journeys or kaleidoscopes, like, or mandalas or stuff like that, or how do you say, fractals and stuff like that. Ibogaine it's called onirogenic, which is kind of that induces a dreamlike or awakened dream state. No? It's very intense. It's not easy, but the visions you receive are very vivid, and they can be super mysterious. For example, there is a lot of similarities in people working with death, feeling that they go through death, feeling the body goes, you know, decompose, but you can see it in a way, and like in a dream, so you know you are in ibogaine, but you see it.
It's like a lucid dream.
It's like a lucid dream, exactly. When you realize, lucid dream, and so it's a lot about that and like the mystery of the root of life, the mystery of life. But also it has a lot of autobiographical content. It can take you another common vision in ibogaine is like you kind of recapitulate your whole life. You go through your whole life, and you know, you get to the root of traumas also. You know, to what happened or how did it happen, etc. There is also another type of experiences that is very oniric. It's very like dreamlike. It's crazy symbols, crazy images, crazy like stuff like that, like very deep into your unconscious. And there is also it's very mysterious because a lot of people, they have like African motives, you know? Like they see in African tribes dancing or African shamans guiding them to their memories or this or that. So it's and I mean people that probably have no idea, like people deep into fentanyl addiction, that they probably haven't researched the origins of Iboga or stuff like that. They just came here from the detox and they get those
So
visions of Africa. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, because I did ayahuasca. I took ayahuasca twice. Then I heard people talk about, it's the grandmother's spirit, is like a grandmother. Yeah. And then I had a very vivid ceremony where it was like so clear I was talking to an old woman. But afterwards I was like, was that in my head? Yeah. Was it a suggestion, or did I really tap into some
Claudio, I really like that because, I mean, when you are in psychedelics, you are highly
suggestible.
Yeah. But Claudio did an experiment back in the 60s that he had a group of 10 people, something like that. And to 5, he gave them ayahuasca, and to 5 Iboga, without knowing what it is. And they didn't have reference because back then neither of those were known.
Yeah.
No, it's like a tea and the ayahuasca guys had jaguars, eagles, rivers, jungle visions. No? And the Iboga guys had African and more motifs.
Interesting.
So it's always been fascinating to me. For me, it's like there is kind of this collective unconscious, you know, eye clouds, so to speak, and the medicines kind of connect you with that energy or that.
Have you done a dieta?
Yes. Yeah.
Of which plant?
I did it with 5 different plants. Chirisanango, Uchusanango, Piripiri, Guayanchi, and Marusa.
And you felt like you were speaking to a specific kind of
like
thing?
A spirit,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and through dreams also. For me, dietas was super powerful through dreams.
Yeah, I always found it interesting that people who've done a dieta of a certain plant describe it the same way. But I wondered if it was, again, suggestion or they really... I also think it's so interesting when people learn songs in there. Icaros, yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, I have a friend working with us in Iboga Quest. He's from the Santo Daime. Do you know what it is? He's now writing hymns. And I asked him a couple of days ago, it's like, how did that happen? You know, and it's like, you know, you are playing the drums with the medicine and then a word comes into your mind, like seed, for example. And from seed, sometimes they start to go, you know, to unfold different phrases and you have a hymn. But another times, they're like the whole thing comes right away.
Wow.
It's like I don't even have to write it. I just have to compose some music to it and sing it. So that's how they received those hymns, you know. But that's like a huge community, the Santo Daime, and probably it's a lot of energy, you know, put in the same thing, and things start to arise, you know, in their minds.
Yeah. Have you been in a Santo Daime?
I haven't, no.
Okay. I did it once. I wasn't crazy about it, but I think maybe the leader I didn't like so much. I would give it a try again, maybe.
Well, this friend is New Yorker.
Okay.
It's Chris, you know. You met her? You met him in the retreat. He had lunch with us.
Okay.
You talked with him.
Yeah, okay.
And he has a really good casa, they call it, a good like church in New York.
Oh, really?
It might be good, yeah.
Cool.
They are not so like strict.
So he's another therapist with you in Iboga Quest, or?
No, he came here 4 years ago for addiction interruption and became very close friend. And then he started a path with Daime, and he's a professional musician.
Oh, cool.
And he's now also helping us.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Wait, so I interrupted your story. How did you get to Iboga Quest?
Oh,
right.
So I was with Claudio for a while, then he died, and Nancy and I started to open our own practice. The main intention of that practice is that, you know, mental health, and especially now, retreats and stuff like that, it's for privileged people, you know.
Yeah.
It's out of the common people, you know? And for me right now it's getting crazy, like $10,000 retreats, stuff like that, no? So we were super young, we were 24 and she was 20, and or something like that, and we opened a more accessible workshops and stuff. So we started to work on that, and then after a long research in ourselves and also research, we started to work with psychedelics by ourselves, and starting with MDMA, and then psilocybin, and then LSD, and stuff like that, and always in group settings and a couple of individual sessions, but we like the group setting. And years after, I was always curious about ibogaine, but ibogaine is super expensive usually. And
it's also legal, even though everything else is not.
In Mexico, it's not legal, not illegal.
Okay.
It's not regulated.
Okay.
So you can use it. In US, it's Schedule 1. So other countries is legal. I think Canada is legal. And we have a program here that actually in 2 weeks we're starting the Reset, which is a great way to explore ibogaine, because it's not a float dose completely. It's like a booster. Well, it's a small float dose. You have a full experience, but it's a group setting. And instead of 8 days, that is our regular treatment, this is 4 days. So it's a great way to have it. No? So before I came here, I organized that. They organized that, and Christy invited me, which Christy is like the manager. And I was like, yeah, this is for me, for sure. And, before that, I wrote my bachelor thesis in addiction interruption using psychedelics with ayahuasca and psilocybin and ibogaine. And since there, I was super, like, my dream was to work with ibogaine. You know, like, I want this plant. But
so again, you researched it for a long time before you tried it.
Yeah. I always tend to be like that. I read a lot before I start to do it.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah. And I'm starting to be more like that, because also in the other parties, I have so many curiosities that I never go put into practice, because I research until my interest was gone. And I came here for my first ibogaine experience 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years exactly. And it was mind blowing. So I was like, what is this? You know, this is the most profound thing and the most mysterious thing as well, and the most kind of fascinating and challenging as well. So talking with them, they were interested in my work, and I knew them back then, but not very closely. So anyway, a former member of the team left, and they say, hey, we need a guy to help us in this session. Are you available? Yeah, sure. And we did a good relationship, and they invited me to stay stable. Cool. And back then it was owned by Barry, the owner, the founder, but right now it's a community. We own it by 5.
Cool.
So it's now like a cooperative or a community.
Cool.
Yeah.
Barry's still there though.
Barry's still there, and he's the owner, and he's still, the elder. but we take the decisions among the five of us.
Cool.
And we are also growing and changing some stuff.
Cool. And so you do a few a month, right? Of these like treatments. One a month. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's we receive now 6 people, just 1 week a month.
Okay.
It's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super. It's a challenging process, and it's exhausting for both clients and space holders. Yeah.
And most people are there for addiction interruption.
No, actually, it's like, let's say 30% addicts.
Okay.
And 70% mood disorder and psychospiritual.
Okay.
So it's a good balance.
So, but it's not so common that someone's just curious and they go. I guess.
Yeah, we call it psychospiritual. Then we
okay.
receive sometimes a lot of psychonauts, people that are deep into this world and they want to explore more. A lot of meditators that want to. People from the plant medicine world that want to get deep in themselves. But that's the less. I think that the most we're receiving right now is PTSD and depression and a lot of behavioral addiction. That's very interesting. After COVID, like a lot of porn addiction, a lot of chat sites addiction. What else do we receive? And so many different drugs like opiates, cocaine, meth, kratom, GHB, alcohol, cocaine. Yeah.
People take GHB recreationally?
A lot, yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I only knew it as a date rape drug. So
yeah. I never tried it, and I don't want, because they say it's like kind of a being drunk state.
Yeah.
But yeah, we received 2 people that were really into it, and ketamine.
Huh. So the pandemic was kind of good for business in a sense.
It was good for me, yes.
Okay, so I mean, because there's a lot of arguments, obviously, and I don't know, you probably don't follow American politics, but there's a lot of arguments over lockdowns, good, bad, whatever. But at least on this end, it was bad for people's mental health.
For sure, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest problems right now in society is the disconnection we have from others. We are extremely individualistic, and that's how capitalism pushed that.
Yeah.
To be more individualistic.
Have you read *Sapiens*?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think COVID just brought up, exaggerate that a lot, the individualism, because now the other is your enemy, whereas the risk is in your friends and family.
Yeah.
And also I think that maybe an underlying anxiety that we are living starts to go super, super high, And with the uncertainty, with the fear, with the news, with and the political struggle happening in US and in Mexico from that. So definitely brought up a lot of issues. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know if they were new or they were there and just came to the surface very strongly.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously coping mechanisms became.
And you are, locked down with your computer. And so everything became digital, and that's compromised a lot of the human relationship. The life to the one-on-one contact.
Yeah, it's so because all of these addictions are like attempts to self-medicate or the coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to go fly to another country for what's kind of another coping mechanism to recover from your coping mechanism. I don't know if that's fair to say, but. I don't know, if Iboga clinics were easily available in the West and okay, there's a lockdown, you're anxious, you go there, that would cut out a huge chunk of the cycle. You wouldn't have to go through the addiction, basically.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys in the community, for example, for this opioid crisis happening in the US, a lot of the ibogaine community is kind of divided. The ones that wants to push that as a solution for the opioid crisis, and they are actually trying to develop. I think they didn't go through the trials, but trying to develop a molecule that is have the same effects but without the psychedelic effect. So you just get your addiction interrupted.
Do you think that's possible?
I mean, they're trying that, and they're trying in mice and stuff. There's ways to mess up with the molecules and inhibit this or that, but I don't think that's beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, I would think you'd have to go through that process to have the therapeutic effect.
Exactly. And the subjective aspect, my struggle always with the psychedelic community is that all the research is focused in the biochemistry and what happens in your brain and that's fascinating. But for me, the most healing depth of psychedelics has to do with subjective experience.
Yeah.
When you enter in touch with the depths of your true nature, with who you are, when you open your heart, you ease your defenses so you can connect more with nature, with yourself, with others, with your work, etc. So, and it's been kind of taken out of, like, take it as if it was an allopathic medication.
Yeah.
Like you have depression, and psilocybin cures depression. So,
but that's also how opiates were created.
Yeah.
Right? You have pain, here's this pill.
Here's this pill.
So wouldn't that just become another addiction? If you're not experiencing, it's like you're not tasting the food.
Exactly.
Wouldn't it just become another?
And it's also a misinterpretation of the addiction, because it's seen addiction as just a messed up in your neurotransmitters, which is that's one dimension of it, of course, the physical addiction. The ibogaine helps with that. But there is also the psychological addiction. What are you trying to fix with your addiction? It's like Gabor asked, like, you don't ask what the addiction, ask what the pain. Why the pain? Where is the pain that you want to mask with, especially with opiates, where it numbs you down?
Yeah. So is it that, so if alcoholism is an attempt at self-medication, porn addiction, whatever, is it that it's just it's more easily available to get addicted to porn or drink alcohol than it would be to, like, if there was I don't know, I'm just imagining some future where there's an iboga drink, and like you feel shitty about your day, you drink the iboga drink instead of alcohol. Is that a ridiculous idea, or is it maybe just not going to be commercially successful? Because porn and alcohol, once you have a consumer, they buy more and more and more and more, right? Yeah. Iboga, you take it once, maybe you don't want it anymore. Yeah,
exactly. That's why pharmaceutics they're kind of pushing against psychedelics or these alternative health tools in so many levels, because you really heal. It's not just you're patching your symptoms.
Yeah.
But one way that like the Iboga drink, actually, what we are doing right now is doing a program with microdosing Iboga, the root bark. And the way I start that is that first I read a lot. That's one of my addictions. And I used to, because I don't like it anymore. I read a lot of all of the articles come out in the psychedelic community, because I've been involved in that. It's 13 years, and recently in the past 5 became super mainstream. So that suddenly it's a lot. So I'm always analyzing what's the line or what's the path they're taking. And when microdosing started to be famous, all the articles had the same kind of narrative of a magic pill. It's like you have anxiety, psilocybin mushrooms take it out of you have a bad day, take a psilocybin microdosing and you will feel great. You have depression, that. And it's like, for me, that's a misconception of how healing happens. Because healing, to heal, you have to really face what you are trying to avoid, which is your sadness, your pain, your whatever, those challenging emotions. So I developed a program that is 8-week microdosing protocol. I've done it with psilocybin and iboga. Then we follow a protocol of microdosing, but at the same time we have a 2-hour weekly session in a therapeutic context, in a group setting. So there's like group therapy where you can connect and listen to others and stuff like that. And we incorporate different tools like meditation, breathwork, journaling. Like one of the main goals is for the people to create a daily practice of well-being, or mental well-being, and it's been amazing. The results and the depths of the therapeutic process are so fascinating. But at the end of the program, a lot of guys, they feel like not doing microdosing anymore.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine. Maybe in the future I will again, but right now I'm gonna harvest what I planted.
Yeah, I guess it's the opposite of what an addiction is.
And it's the opposite of what antidepressants work, for example.
Yeah, because you have to keep upping the dose, actually. Yeah, because so when I left the cult and I was pretty messed up, I microdosed LSD while I was a taxi driver, and it was so helpful, but partly because I was a taxi driver and like I would take this microdose. Sometimes it was too much because I would cut it with not, I wasn't measuring it. So sometimes it wasn't a microdose, but I got the experience to talk to like 20, 30 people a day. And I was so interested in their lives. And like I was like, I don't know, I was so much more social than I usually am. I just wanted to know everything about everything, even if like a 10-minute drive, I wanted to know your whole life and where you did, blah. And it was that was healing.
Yeah.
Like if I just microdosed and then sat at home, I think nothing would have happened.
That my experience with microdosing, LSD microdosing is similar. It's like, and I think I'm shy also. I'm not very social, so LSD made me very I want to engage and talk, and I feel very free and very confident. And but I took it once. I remember I went for a hike and I had like wonderful ideas and I wrote down a lot of stuff and stuff. But then I started to do it. Yeah, I took it, but I stayed home or in the computer or what, and that creativity turns into anxiety.
Yeah,
you know, it was I need to put this energy somewhere else. You know, so microdosing LSD, I love it. LSD is one of my favorite substances, or top 2, and but you have to give it. You have to feed that creativity either by engaging socially or by being in nature or something like that.
Yeah, one thing that I love and find interesting is that on all substances of this sort, looking at a screen feels so bad.
So bad.
And it's like, well, this is what it always is. I just don't notice. Like, this is how, you know.
Yeah. I had that this experience with ibogaine that I had the flow dose. And when you are living the visionary state, which is around 6 to 8 hours, when you are living that, my last vision was having a cell phone here. And I move around and I could see the room, but I couldn't step away from the fucking cell phone, you know? And it was like, the person told me like that. And I remember I had to check on Etsy or something. And the screen just felt so bad, so cringe. It's like, no, it was like nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you something else about Iboga, but I forgot. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so the main challenges in Iboga for me is like the main difference with other plants is that Iboga, it's so long. It's like in ayahuasca ceremony or psilocybin, in 6 hours you are back, you know? And in Iboga in 6 hours you are starting. And another element that is very challenging is the thing called ataxia, which is a lot of impediment in your emotion abilities. So even reaching for a glass, it's like you kind of not control your body very much. That's very tricky, you know. That's like very, very hard. So to do Iboga, you have to be ready to be with yourself in your mind for 30 hours.
Wow. And you can't really interact with people.
Not so much.
Okay. And
so it has a weird effect that you forget everything you are saying. So communicating is like you take so long. And I mean, in the Witi tradition, they dance, and there's another thing. In the setting we use, which is not a clinic, it's a retreat center. It's more like a alone and dark experience.
Cool. Oh yeah, I was gonna. So you said flow dose, flood dose. These are just different.
Yeah. So ibogaine, the alcohol of the HCl. It's measured by your weight. Okay. So, for example, a flow dose is start at 7 milligrams per kilo. Okay. All the way up to, we give 14 in our clinic. We don't go further. And the booster dose is usually a half dose of what you took.
Okay. So you start with a flow dose and a booster is just to boost you.
But it's like our protocol is we start the flow dose, and then the day after is the recovery day. People are like laying down, like not engaging very much. Then the day after we go to a hike and we do different, like kind of more into bringing them back into their body. And the day after we give a booster dose. Ah,
okay.
So it's a long process.
Did you say flood dose?
Flood, yeah, they like flood.
Oh, there's flood. Did you say flow also?
No, flood.
Oh, flood. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, flood dose. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you are flooded by.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, I definitely want to try it at some point.
It's awesome.
Cool. Yes, I know you have a lot of treats going on. Where can people find out more about your work?
I mean, I'm always being super low profile and underground, but you can write me at Vicente@ibogaquest.com.
Okay. Ibogaquest.com is where the retreats are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome,
and to find out, to the microdosing programs and everything through there, or the webpage also. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Thanks
Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much.